in the court of a pagan king. The prophet Daniel, his life was a real life example of godliness. The prophet and his friends, they were sent away during the Babylonian exile, and they lived in an ungodly culture. The people there opposed God, the one true Lord of Israel. We can use Daniel and his friends' lives as an example today for our life. We live in a sinful society. Daniel and his friends, they were in this world, but they were not of this world. They did not belong here to this world. They belonged to God. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. The leaders of Babylon, they chose Daniel and his friends for them to learn the literature and the language of the Chaldeans. Youths without blemish, of good appearance and skillful in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge, understanding, learning, and competent to stand in the king's palace, and to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The friends, they gained in wisdom and experience, and they were successful, not like other Judahites who were in slavery in Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar in his court, Daniel and his friends learned more and more, had more education, and they received new names. For example, Daniel, from the Hebrew view, it means God is my judge. But the new name that was given to Daniel, the new name was Belshazzar. And it meant, may a God protect his life. Another meaning was goddess protect the king. Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribes of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belshazzar. Hananiah he called Shadrach. Mishael he called Meshach. And Azariah he called Abednego. Wow, there were problems for the four men. They were Jewish, and they wanted to have a clear witness for the Lord. And by the grace of the Lord, he helped them to stand under the pressure of the Babylonian culture. When the four of them started to be served in King Nebuchadnezzar's court, Daniel, he asked his supervisor to allow them to eat the food that they had eaten before. And what was that? Well, it was vegetables, instead of the rich food that they ate there, which was full of meat. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. And God gave Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who assigned your food and your drink. For why should he see that you were in worse condition than the youths who are of your own age, so you would endanger my head with the king? Then Daniel said to the steward whom the chief of the eunuchs had assigned over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, he said, test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables and eat and drink water. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the youths who eat the king's food be observed by you, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. So the steward took away their food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. It seemed that the four men, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that they refused to eat the king's rich food. What for? Well, to show God's power to the people of Babylon. And the people did not expect that these men eating vegetables, that they would become skilled and show great wisdom. And they were shocked at this. As for these four youths, God gave them learning and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. At the end of the time, when the king had commanded that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king spoke with them. And among all of them none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they stood before the king, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in all his kingdom. Throughout Daniel's ministry, the people of Babylon, they would see that these 4 men were very different. And what was this difference that they saw? Well, the Lord was working in their lives. And Daniel was there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. Now let's apply this to our Christian lives. We as individuals, we face situations that sometimes there's problems for us, and we don't know how to remain a witness for Christ in the best way within this world, in the new situation that we're in, things that we've never experienced. When we read about these men's stories, it's a perfect example for us to learn how to serve God best. It's not impossible for us in all situations. There's things that we can do. In fact, in our culture, there's things that we can accept and enjoy, but there are also some things that we can't accept as those who belong to God. We need to seek His wisdom to learn how to live our life in this world according to His Word. He has clear teaching that we are part of this world, but we are not of this world. We belong to God. There are some people who believe that the story of Daniel and his friends refusing to eat the meat and only eating the vegetables, right there's proof that we can't eat meat, we must only eat vegetables, for our health. Is that true? The reason for Daniel's decision that he and his friends would be defiled by the king's food is not given. Perhaps they were obeying the dietary laws of Moses. It is using this story to prove that we should eat vegetables for our health. Is that true? No, that's not the point. In Leviticus chapter 11 and Deuteronomy chapter 14, there's no mention of health in relation to the dietary laws of Moses. Food laws were for ceremonial cleansing and recognition of God's holiness and sacred space. Coram Deo.